What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Essential Scares Podcast, the only show that dares to ask the question, is it essential? I am your host, Corbin, and with me today, as always, is Alan.
Good evening.
And Bobby.
Oh, hi, how's it going? It's me, Bobby, your friend Bobby.
I don't like this.
No. We've got quite a show for you today. We are taking a look at yet another proper horror movie. Today we are looking at 2013's Snowpiercer. But first, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
I do. This will serve as your first one and only spoiler warning for Snowpiercer. If you do not want Snowpiercer spoiled for you, please check the show notes or description for our essential spoiler-free discussion. The least believable thing about Snowpiercer is that anyone in power would do anything at all about climate change. Alan.
So Snowpiercer, the world has ended due to humans trying to fix climate change to then only cause opposite climate. Well, to cause climate change, actually. It's not really... It's still climate change.
It's still climate change. Yeah,
it's just
They go, oh wait, fuck, we didn't stop climate change when we could have. Now let's stop climate change in the worst way possible.
Yep. So everything becomes so bitterly cold that you last a mere couple of minutes at best outside. It's a total frozen wasteland. But the rich overlords at the Wayland, Utah... Oh, sorry, wrong universe. At this random guy, I don't remember his name, universe, decided that he was going to make this massive luxury train that just goes around the world and, is self-sustaining and is what's going to keep the human population alive. And of course, over time, this creates a system of have and have-nots. You have the rich at the front of the train, controlling everything, and the people in the back of the train who are given literal roach meat to eat as protein bites. And they rise up and kill a lot of people to then only crash the whole fucking train and kill all of humanity, probably.
I disagree entirely with the message of this movie with you. That's insane to me. Here's the thing, right?
From there.
Listen, this is going to be just I guess further spoiler alert. This is going to be a heavily political episode. There's just no way that it's not, because the politics of this movie is very much at the forefront. We're gonna see if we agree or disagree. It'll be fine, but just because I'm here, it'll be a political episode. Just fucking deal with it.
Well, every episode is a political episode when Bobby's on.
Yeah, well, I mean, not every episode's political, but yeah. But also, yes, you're absolutely correct, and that's fine.
The ones that aren't, right? We all know you're just holding it back.
Yeah. The non-political episodes, I'm doing the best I can to make it non-political, and I can't in a movie like this. It's just like,
nothing. There's nothing political about this movie. It's just a movie about a train.
Yeah,
it's just a movie about a train.
Of course, it's a movie about a train. There's nothing about the proletariat rising up against the stupid bourgeoisie. My favorite
You're reading into it.
My favorite part about this movie is like thinking about this in the year of our Lord 2024, with like a million different events happening, and seeing Wilford as Elon Musk is like the funniest shit in the world. Just luckily getting into the right thing at the right time, becoming super successful, having a ton of control over the world, and just watching it burn is incredibly hilarious to me. I really enjoyed this movie for the social commentary. And I think I said it before the podcast. This is more of a horror movie to me than Constantine, for the message alone that we will somehow religiously support the rich, even though they have no reason to deserve it, at all.
Well, I mean, you can't just say that there's no reason to support it. I mean, they built the train.
Hey.
Without them, we'd all be dead.
The duality of man. No.
Without a billionaire and a dream and a very fancy engine, right? Humanity would have been gone.
Without a stupid asshole having a horrible idea that just happened to get it right at the right time. You're right. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I didn't see
He
Chris
used
Evans
his
making a
insider
train.
training to make sure that he was in the right place at the right time. This is just us being a shrewd businessman, Bobby.
Thank you, Adam.
Imagine if he could have just made that happen for everybody. That would have been
you
crazy.
can't build that many trains, okay? It's just not sustainable, right? Because if you
You
only
don't
have
need
the
to build
one...
that many trains.
No.
You don't need to build that many trains. You just need to build that many engines for people.
That's a train.
That's the train. Yeah, exactly. The rest of the train is like free basically.
Yeah. Once you have
No.
this
You just
perpetual
need
motion
to keep
engine.
people alive.
No.
You just need to like
The sacred engine keeps the people
but
alive.
not funny. This movie is Fallout, but not funny.
I laughed actually quite a lot.
Of course I laughed. Of course I
You've proven yourself wrong.
I laughed when all the rich people died because it was funny and they deserved it. What was her name? What was
Mason?
No,
Something like that?
No,
Yeah.
Mason.
The
Mason,
woman in
what are you
charge
talking
who he
about then?
shoots in the head with like just passingly when he's like, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah, when he becomes Lennon for real.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
She
know.
was great.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. Fantastic role. You hate her immediately, and you're just waiting for something, and then she like survives long enough for you to hate her even more.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Except there's that satisfaction when she gets shot.
Yeah,
Corbin, I'm not sure you did.
She was great. She was very funny. It was a great part of the movie.
The saddest part of the movie is when I watched her die.
I mean, it was kind of a bummer. She added a lot. I could have used another like half an hour for a character for sure.
Well, that's what.
Imagine her going through the drug dens right before the end of the train.
That's
okay,
what I'm saying.
She gets like all coked up on
push her
like,
into the grinding gears. Like, yeah,
you'll give her a more like. I think killing the girl who's only in the beginning at the end. Like her just getting exploded was like the most meh.
I mean, her character was kind of a nothing character, so like,
her character. No, I disagree. Her character stealing children drove me through this movie. I don't know what to tell you.
I forgot she stole children until they got to the very end. And
she didn't steal them. She just measured the children, and other people stole them.
No, she stole the children because she also licked the blood when someone threw a shoe at her. I just remember all of that. I remember being like,
that
was her. I was thinking it was the other woman. Yeah, no, but you're right.
I'm gonna go ahead and open up the cast list so we don't have to play this game anymore.
That's fair.
I'm not playing. Who's playing games?
I have a major disappointment with this film.
Oh fuck, planes and automobiles.
Yeah. What is your major? Well, there was a plane in this movie and a train.
True.
Yeah.
Major disappointment.
An automobile, but
yeah, probably.
Well, who could say?
The major disappointment for me was the arm shattering scene because I knew that was a thing. I knew that was like one of the highlight bits of the whole movie, and you don't see shit. And like you have the opportunity. You knew that was
a highlight of the movie.
Yeah, I've seen it on TikTok.
Going in. Oh, I have not. So I went into this movie totally blind. Like I knew the concept, and I've seen some other stuff from the director, so I kind of understood the vibe. But I hadn't seen any clips of it except for probably like a trailer 10 years ago, when the movie came out. But I'll say I wasn't surprised that they didn't show it because this movie's budget is very low.
I wasn't surprised. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Because like again, like I'd seen the clip and I was like, I'm seeing a clip. You know how on TikTok they'll often like try and avoid showing violence when they just rip movies from movie. You know what I mean? And I was like, they ripped it, so they didn't want to show like the arm shattering and exploding and being really cool. And it's like, no, you just don't get to actually see it. It's like, man, you've got this whole thing where his arm is so frozen he can no longer feel it. Like that's what's happening here. It's completely numb, 100% like ice. And then you don't give me that satisfaction. In general,
this is a complaint. This is a horror movie watcher's complaint, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you there. You're right. But I'm going to still complain about it because I wanted that and I didn't get it.
That's fair.
Also, I kind of hated every action sequence in this film because it's filmed with the most shaky cam of all shaky cams, and I couldn't see anything happening.
It
It's
is a
ridiculous.
little bit. So I mean, it came out in 2013. A lot of action movies
I
are like
know.
that, but like
I don't like that.
it feels very like of the era so far as
The action
goes,
films,
yeah,
the action scenes feel the air. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm quite partial to it because it was like a moment in cinema where I think I was watching a lot of film. Like, so it's something that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm okay with it. But yeah, I agree. It is very much of its time in that place. I disagree with everything else Alan said.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like
I
how
think-
on opposites we are with this one. This is fun.
I think, again, right, I think the movie is very cold for both reasons obvious and not so much. Pun absolutely intended. I don't know, dude. I think this movie captured me in a way that, like, I watched it with Mallory, and there was like the final, the big scene where Elder, I'm looking at his name, so I know it's Elder, the last bodyguard of Mason, like
the guy
like,
who gets stabbed in the lungs
fake
and then
dies.
just somehow gets
I had
up.
to watch
Yeah,
that
cool.
scene like 4 times because like the service I was watching it on was like it just kept dying and then restarting and then dying and then restarting, and I was still like totally in it till the end of the movie.
If you turned the subtitles off, it would have been fine.
I don't care. I didn't know that. I there's no way I could have known that. I think I was the first one to watch it out of all of us. So
Probably, I watched it yesterday.
Yeah. Yes.
Then I watched it last weekend.
You watched it on Sunday, I think, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it maybe Friday or Saturday of last weekend. So yeah, but yeah,
I don't know. I feel like this movie's message is very surface level. Like this movie just feels like such a very basic like rich bad take over world bad. We are over all the pores. We are better. Like it just feels so like bland to me.
Sure.
Without adding much to like the idea there. I feel like it's just kind of like, yep.
I mean,
this is another typical story.
What makes it interesting is the setting. The setting. Yeah. Like the trapping of it is what's interesting, right? The messaging isn't necessarily. I mean, it's kind of even the same with like, this isn't the only movie that he did like this, and this movie is based on a French graphic novel from the early 80s, right? So, but the director Bong Joon-ho, right, who also famously won some awards for Parasite a couple of years ago. I don't know if any of you guys saw Parasite.
What?
I have not seen Parasite.
This guy wrote another movie about the rich being bad.
Right. And that movie was a little bit, it's more complex. Like there's a little bit of growth there, I think, as a creator.
Oh, I would agree entirely. Yeah.
And that movie's way better than this movie. I liked Snowpiercer, for the record. I thought it was quite enjoyable. But
are you saying Parasite, one of the greatest movies that like I've watched it in modern times, is better than this movie? That's really good. That's very good, but not Parasite. Yeah, no, I agree with you entirely.
This is my bold take of the podcast.
Yeah,
I can't believe.
Oh my god,
Snowpiercer good, Parasite better. I'm sorry.
Listen, both agree with my politics. I can't even fight you at it, dude.
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. I like the movie, right? I think that it succeeds in a lot of like normal movie making ways. I mean, is Alan right as the message surface level? Yeah, like it's barely deeper than Hunger Games, right? That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
But it is a very fun concept, and I honestly, my biggest problem with the movie is that you have like the whole world is a train, which is so fun, right?
Yeah.
But they spent like so much of the movie is spent getting through the dredges of the train, that you kind of like don't get to explore like the culture of the train as a whole, which I think I would have liked to see like more of the train. And then they also like there's weird moments of like, oh, how big is the train actually? Because sometimes it seems like the train is really, really, really big, and sometimes it seems like the distance between the tail and the front is not that bad at all. Like when Curtis is having the shootout with whatever that other guy
Yes.
is, and they're shooting. They are miles apart, right? I mean, so first of all, that Uzi is never going to get all the way over there through all that
No.
wind, right? But second of all, like they're okay. So it's a sci-fi movie. It's made by a South Korean director, right? So there's some allowances here, right?
Yeah.
So they're shooting at each other through the train. A sequence which is just cool for coolness' sake.
It's so fun.
But it
Dude,
makes
I love it.
It makes the train seem just ridiculously large, which is very cool because it makes the journey that Curtis has been on seem that much more extravagant, even though you know that you've then skipped past things. But then that guy catches up to him in like no time. It's like how did he go that distance of the train? Like there's like you're like losing me a little bit on the reality of the train. It pulled me out of it. I had like a certified Alan moment. I was like, how did he catch up to him?
I had one of those too.
The train is too long for him to be only one car behind him suddenly. There's just
May
no
I
way.
recommend to you the AMC show Snowpiercer?
Well, so I was saving it for the end, but my biggest kudos I would even say to this movie at the end of it is that like I liked this movie enough that I would watch the show. And the show is 3 seasons with the 4th and final season coming out literally like next month.
Yeah.
And so like I would watch the show because I liked a lot of it and it made me want to explore it more. And I think that it probably does serve itself better to a TV show with all that extra
I've only
like
watched,
time.
I think, the first season.
Okay.
And then me and Mal fell off it. But
Sure.
like this is reinvigorating.
Fell off the train.
How could you, dude?
Sorry.
I'm trying to tell you a very serious moment here, and you're gonna
This
do
is a
that
serious
to me
moment?
like that?
Watching
No,
Snowpiercer, the TV show.
No, yeah.
I can't imagine.
Or rather, stopping watching Snowpiercer.
It's the most serious I've ever been in this podcast ever. Okay,
Right now
we watch Midnight Mass.
True.
We'll never hit those eyes again.
Everything I've watched so far of the show has been very, very good.
Okay. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It's following it to it like, but much more slowly, I would say.
Right.
And much more like aggressively. Like the revolution does not start in the same way that it would have starts here. But I also think like that's the whole part of it. I would argue that it isn't only skin deep, Snowpiercer the film. Because the whole thing is very much the dichotomy between like it's bourgeois authoritarianism, the wheel, versus like proletariat authoritarianism, the wheel, and then oh Jesus, what is the hacker's name and his daughter? The Chrono.
Her name is something with an N, right?
Is it Yona? It says Yona on here.
You have the cast list? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Yona. I just is it? I'm trying to find. Oh, it's Minsu and Yona.
Okay.
Right? I'm looking right now. So Minsu's like, we can just end it right now. We'll just blow the door open and like restart everything. It's good now. I've been paying attention for like a decade and like we can survive this. It's okay. It's like a very interesting final conceit of like, we don't need to do this anymore. We don't. It can be over. The rich are keeping us here because they don't want the restart that is the real like change. Because if the tail becomes the head, it's just a reverse of the same thing. And it's very interesting to be like, it's a very interesting, like, even like historical take of like, if we want a better society, it can't just be the poor rising up and killing the rich. It has to be like a more equitable thing, generally speaking. And that means a restart, which means people are going to die.
Yeah.
And like, there's an interesting like ending there of like, the reality of the situation is a more equitable change is messy. which is a super interesting take and probably the most realistic take of imaginable when it comes to like in this day and age of like modern progressivism, where it's just like, yeah, don't worry, don't even think about what that might entail when we talk about eating the rich and guillotines. Like, don't think about the bodies, don't think about the bodies. So there's that level of it that I think is super interesting, and as much as I agree with a lot of the progressive element, it is a critique that we cannot ignore. So yeah, that was a big philosophical take that I think is slightly like one layer below the skin deep of it.
I don't disagree with that. What I'll say is that my only comment so far about the politics of the movie, and only because like I feel like there's not a ton of room for political interpretation, right?
Sure.
I mean, the movie is what it is, right? If you watch the movie and you don't understand, that is on you, I would say.
I would agree entirely, yeah.
But was that like what did I say? I said it's as deep as Hunger Games, and I even with that additional anecdote, I stand by that. Like that's even an element of that, right? Like,
yeah,
like
for sure.
It's a movie that probably doesn't deserve to be rated R. For like, it's movie probably should have been PG-13. They just swear it a little bit less.
This movie was rated R
just because they swore so much. It's just R for language. Yeah, a lot. And if they had just cut that down, like the violence wasn't R rated. If they had cut that down, it could have been PG-13, and maybe it would have done a little bit better, But there's probably an audience that could have hit it. But I thought it was probably part of the failing, even, right? Like a YA style dystopia at the time when it came out, that's what it probably would have felt like. But then rated R. I mean, this is a situation for failure, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I'll say is that I don't think that the depth of the politics is a downside for me. I wouldn't knock the movie for that, right?
No.
I think that it is exactly as deep as it needs to be. I mean, the concept of the movie is absolutely ridiculous, right? Like, how far do we need to go? Sometimes it's okay being at that level with like a concept like this, and I think that that's fine. But I agree with you that there is some more interesting things here, and I wonder, and I'll be straight, I'm not gonna read them, but I wonder how much is added with the other 3 volumes of the graphic novel, right? Like, does the show cover those? Like, how far do they go after the train has derailed, right? Because surely there's more.
There's gotta be, right? Like,
yeah, right. And so, based on where the movie ends, assuming that that's just kind of how it ends, right? I would be interested in seeing like the rest of that, right? Like the restart kind of a civilization. That's always interesting. I mean, that's why like Walking Dead was interesting for a little while. Like, how do you kind of start over if everybody's starting on the same level, right?
It's distinctly, I know, Corbin, you and I watched it together in college, All Along the Beach. It's distinctly the opposite of that, where it's like All Along the Beach ends, and it's the black and white movie where it's a post-nuclear holocaust where everybody's living in Australia, and the end is everybody dies.
What was that? How I Learned to Love the Bomb?
No, that's another movie. That it's another very famous movie that it's.
Are you sure we watched this movie together?
Yes, we watched it because we watched it.
What is it called?
It's All Along
the Beach.
Yeah, Dr. Strangelove. I thought that's
Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, The Beach? No,
maybe it's
Danny Boyle.
No.
I haven't seen that movie.
It's no. It's Let me find it.
Was this from the class that I wasn't actually in? Maybe I
yes,
didn't
it
watch
was in a
this
class
one.
that you actually weren't in, but you definitely were there when we watched it. Anthony Perkins is in it.
On the Beach.
On the Beach, yes.
Okay.
And it's like a post-nuclear apocalypse, and basically everybody moves to Australia, and the last scene is like they just show that like everybody is dead. The last scene of this is showing that like even if there's only 2 people left, life goes on, and like there's a level of hope.
I don't remember this movie at all. I'm gonna keep that open. I'll watch that later.
It's very good. It's very good. You've seen it with me. You were sitting right next to me.
I'm sure once I watch it, I'll be like, oh yeah, this movie.
You were sitting right next to me. Andy was right behind me. I remember all of it. Like,
well, there you go.
I remember feeling very uncomfortable at the end of this movie. Because I was like, this is like, I didn't know like black and white movies did this. But like this game, like I felt kind of that way of like, in like the opposite thing of just like, oh fuck, they just ruined everything. But people survived, and people survived at the front where it was the most dangerous, which means people survived in the back where it's probably less dangerous.
Well,
the explosion happened in the front.
Well, the explosion happened in the front, but a lot of, they show the train, like a lot of the train, like falls into like an abyss, basically.
Yeah.
So I think like if anything, I made a comment. I watched it with Jill, and I was like, the parts of the train that fell off, those are definitely the parts they needed, because it was like the water car, and like the fish car. All of like the farm cars. It's like, well, it's gonna be a lot harder to start over when you live in an Arctic wasteland and all your food is gone.
It was pretty much the front and the back, which was like the people cars, the only cars that could have survived.
And then they're so separated. So like you're kind of, you're almost in the same places as you were, right? Just without leadership, because both the front leadership and the back leadership has died.
It's what's I think the most frustrating for me is like, kind of like you were saying earlier, Corbin, is like, I want to know more about this world, and like not just the goings of the people, but like the economy of this world. Because like one of the best sequences of the whole film is when they're in the fish car and they're like, you got a special day, we have to eat these fish now to make sure that the population grows sustainably in a way such that we can continue to feed ourselves. Like, that is such a cool, like, think about the idea of the entirety of the human race is located in one train. It's a mile long, let's say.
Yeah.
Like, having an ecosystem that you need to cultivate properly, that is that's kind of one of the things that's cool about like the Fallout universe is the idea of how do you keep people living on in contained spaces and still exist.
The train is basically a vault, right?
It's a vault.
Just
it's a mobile
vault.
Yeah. So, and it's like, it's like, oh, here's the tiniest bit of detail on the world and the world building, and we're gonna zoom right back and go into the action. It's like, but I want the world. When this movie gives me the world that I want, I'm very happy. When this is a plain Jane boring action film, it's a plain Jane boring action film that doesn't do anything much better than other action films. That's to me the big frustrating thing with this movie is the world is so cool, but I don't get nearly enough of it.
This is why I said for sure I'm gonna watch the show, because 40 hours of this, I feel like I'm gonna get what I want out of it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, I agree with the second. I agree with Corbin's point of like, more of this will happen, and I will enjoy more of this, right? But like, oppositely speaking, right? Coming from someone who really enjoyed this movie, you get pieces of the world building. And if you're remembering what's happening in the back of the train, the catharsis of just like the people in the front having to deal with even remotely the suffering of what's happening in the back is like a bit of just like, you kind of get enough of the world building to know that like these people could be dealing with less and still be comfortable, and they're choosing not to, and that is incredibly frustrating.
So
like,
I want a devil's advocate here.
Okay,
a little bit.
I don't want to do this, but okay.
No. Well, I think there's a reason. I think there's a reasonable point to be brought up here. Okay, how many of those people near the front of the train were born post end of the world, or young enough that they don't really know anything different?
A lot of them, because a lot of them seem to be like in their 20s, like, even 30s.
And we already know indoctrination is key to how this works. Like, these people don't even know these people at the back of the train. They probably, I would be willing to bet most of them are either not necessarily aware or don't know nearly the conditions that those people live in, intentionally so by the people above them, and that's bad.
Well, I don't
disagree.
You even get the implication that like we're dealing with like a millennial or even a Zoomer population of just like, oh, we have ignored the poor for so long. I can't imagine how we're living. We need to feed them. And the protein bars exist because of a younger generation of the front of the car. They talk about eating each other in
Yes.
the final third
Yeah.
of the movie, which
Yeah, I know what babies taste like. What a great academic line that is so well delivered.
it is that last scene is very like Chris Evans does a great job throughout the entire.
I think it's the most overacted bit of the whole film.
I don't
and
give
he
a
does
fuck.
all sorts of overacting in this whole
give
film.
a fuck.
There is kind of some overacting.
Even if it is ham-fisted like lines, he delivers them fantastically. Chris Evans can do no wrong. I've never seen him bad in anything. I'm gonna that's my hot take. I think Chris Evans is very good in everything. I really enjoy. I haven't seen him in anything I haven't enjoyed. But I think that there is a level of that as well. It's like, okay, so at some point, people were like, oh wait, there's people at the back of the train that like matter, and we need to like take care of them.
I didn't assume that. I just assumed it was more we need. My thought was it was much less like we need to take care of them and more we need to have people to pull from in case we need someone to do a dangerous thing on this train and I don't want to use my people type thing.
It can be both, right?
Maybe. I don't, but like what would give you the thought that people cared about the people in the back in that way in this universe? Because you kind of made the point that they don't care about them.
Yeah,
already.
no, the way that Mason talks about balance, right? We need them to like she's equally like you deserve to be here, but also like look at what we're giving you. Look at what we're doing for you. We don't need to do this. We're doing this for you, which kind of implies that there are people like again, right? It kind of implies the duopoly of like there's always going to be people who are at the top who have a bend towards those at the bottom. And it also kind of implies that like no matter what, like again, the message of the movie is it implies that like even if that is the case, they're not doing enough. We're still feeding them cockroaches. We're feeding them nothing, right? Like
it's protein.
They're lucky they're not all eating bugs. I mean,
honestly, yeah.
They are.
The other thing too is it's like I mean, where are all these roaches coming from?
We shouldn't have watched
the other
this
question.
movie for this podcast.
They're from the bug farm in the bug car that they skipped. There's got to be a car, right? That's bug farming, right? Because you can
or there's a
really
bunch
fast.
of nets in the tunnel and like the pipes in the tunnels for the bugs.
I guess, yeah. It's a lot of bugs.
There's a lot of bugs.
Again, the only thing that will ever survive most things, including a nuclear fallout, is the cockroach. So,
you ever seen Terraformers? A terrible anime?
No.
It's all about mutant cockroaches from Mars. I'm not joking. It's honestly like one of the most gory, nonsensical animes you can ever watch, and it has like Sailor Moon-esque transformation moments. It's ridiculous, but very fun. And the whole point is they fight like super like imagine like a super huge like a roach head and then just a jacked body, and that's basically what the roaches are in the anime. It's ridiculous.
It reminds me of Bible Black.
I don't know what that is.
Never mind.
Okay. Do we have anything else we want to say about this film, or are we about ready to wrap it up?
I think that I could rate this bad boy.
Okay. Oh. Now, I have a question, because I don't understand how anything works after 100 and something episodes.
This is episode 120.
How do we do?
How do we do?
How do we do?
Well, first of all, we do good.
Oh,
and second of all, we rate.
We do well, but okay.
Well, no. I mean, we do good. Yeah, we do good. As in, we might not be doing well, but we're doing good. Yeah.
Oh,
I've never done well in the entirety of my life.
The act of good. I got it.
That's right.
Okay, now I'm on board.
We rate movies here at Essential Scares on a scale of 0 to 5. And you may think that this is a 5-star scale, which it kind of is, but we also allow half points. So, a 4, 4.5, a 5, legal. A 4.25, illegal. Now, with that in mind, let's play a time-honored tradition,
Oh no.
lowest to highest.
Oh
Alan,
no.
what
Yep.
do you rate Snowpiercer 2013?
I am waffling
Okay.
between a 2 and a 2.5.
What
Sure.
the fuck?
He
That
said
should not be
he
surprising.
opened this episode with, I didn't like this movie.
Yeah. I
just don't understand objectively how you can say 2.5.
think because this movie is a
after
poorly shot action film.
After
That's
that-
how I can call it a
after
2.5.
After that opener, you should have been hoping for a 3 at best. Like,
Yeah.
I understand.
You're going to work him up to the 3 even. Like,
Yeah, and you did not. I was amenable to it, but it was not accomplished. I think this film doesn't give me enough of what this film is good at, and that's kind of the ultimate reason for me that kind of like kills it. I want more of what is the world of Snowpiercer, because that's what's interesting here. You know, the fact that they're on a train opens up so many interesting possibilities, and we just don't get those explored in a way that's interesting. That's the killer for me. Add on top of that, the action just doesn't do it. Like, there's this whole sequence where they fight in a car where like there's a bunch of dudes. And here's the funny thing. They've got like, you know, the rebels come in with like clubs and shit. Everybody else has axes. And you know what else they have? Fucking spears behind them. And instead of just pointing the spears down and winning, because they're in a confined space, they decide to use their axes first. Like, what? Doesn't make any goddamn sense. So when you have action sequences and action stuff like that, it just doesn't work. And then when I want more of what the movie is doing good, it doesn't give me that. So it just leaves me wanting and just kind of ends up being average. So 2.5 for me.
all right. I think that. So I'll go next. I think that is not a totally unfair position to take. I think that this movie succeeds in a lot of ways, but also is oddly middling in other ways. I kind of agree with you. I'll say I enjoyed myself. I liked the movie quite a lot. We mentioned it during the spoiler cast, a little bit of overacting, but I think intentional. I think it's just kind of intentionally over the top at times. And even scenes like that exact action sequence that you're talking about, like you feel the mixture of the South Korean and American influences right between the cast and the crew.
Sure.
And like I think that from a film perspective, a lot of this movie is very interesting, kind of seeing an accomplished at the time, or semi-accomplished, I guess. I don't know what he was considered, but director making his English speaking and like American debut with this movie that's like kind of a mix in styles, which is very interesting. And I think a lot of the movie works, and I liked the movie, but I agree that it's not like amazing. For me, it's gonna be a 3.5. I liked it a lot. I'd watch it again. Above average, I think. I don't think that the action was bad. I think that's just the style that they went for, and I don't dislike the style, so I was cool with it. But faltered in some places, and room for improvement. But good, just a good movie, I think. 3.5.
I love this movie. I really enjoyed myself. Is it a perfect movie? No. Is a lot of the politics and the messaging of this movie very ham-fisted? Yes. Is this movie at times overacted? Yes. Are some of the action sequences all kind of unbelievable on both sides, both the losing fights and the winning fights? Sure. But I don't give a fuck. This movie was cool as shit. I enjoyed the shit out of this movie. It was equally sci-fi and leftist politics. Daddy likey. If I were to rate this objectively and I had a 20-point scale, I would probably give, or whatever it gives me the quarter points, I give it a 4.25. With the scale that we have, I'm between a 4 and a 4.5, and just for the sake of keeping it somewhat close, I'll give it the 4. But it could very easily be a 4.5 if I was feeling more biased today. It's a good movie. Objectively, I think this movie is well done. And I think it is very much in Bong Joon-ho's repertoire of films and something that he'll be remembered for. And I think giving it a 2 or even a 2.5 is fucking insane. Alan, you're a crazy person. You're an absolute insane fool. I love you. Kisses, mwah, but wrong
be
and
called
bad
worse
and wrong,
things.
and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
But speaking of Alan being wrong, not only do we decide whether or not how good a movie is, we also decide whether or not this movie is essential to horror movies
Oh, really?
as a whole. I think again, Uno reverse order is
Oh my
probably in an order here, right? From loved it the most to loved it the least, which means
Some
that
say I hated it.
I will go first.
Would you say you hated it?
No, absolutely not.
I was gonna say,
said-
I don't think a 2.5.
I
I
said-
hated it. Like,
I said loved it the most to loved it the least. I didn't
Yeah.
say hated it at
no,
all.
Alan whispered hated it.
Oh, okay.
I was being an
Yeah.
asshole.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say nobody can hate this movie. It's
No,
it's
yeah,
objectively
yeah,
a good
that
I
movie.
wasn't
hate this
new.
film.
Yeah.
There's enough to like.
It is
now-
too good to hate. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I agree with that. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Now, I gave this movie a 4, although I said I could have given it a 4.5 if I was feeling extra biased. Corbin gave it a 3.5, and Alan gave it a
2.5.
2.5.
2.5.
baby,
Okay.
Average.
I probably should have given it a 4.5 just to have the half point bias, but you know,
The episode
we're here
isn't done
for-
yet. You do it right now. Change it.
I'm not.
Change
no,
it right now.
I'm not. I'm sticking with where my
You're already
heart
waffling.
went. I'm sticking where
You're
my
gonna
heart
wait
went.
no,
no.
2.5 years so you can change it.
You goddamn better believe I'm going to wait another 2.5 years.
Guys, I think I was wrong on this. It's actually a 4.5.
It's actually no. I
Right.
can't wait for another 2.5 years. Where I say this is a 5, but we're not there for that yet.
That's a bold stance.
That being said, I will go first. Is Snowpiercer essential to horror? And unfortunately, while this movie is very good and you should watch it, this movie is also not a horror movie. So no, it is not essential to horror as a whole. I don't
Can't
know
believe you
why
say
we
that.
watched it. I'm super glad we did. This is my second time watching Snowpiercer, and I'm gonna now. I know I'm going to watch the show. Like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna go through all of it and it's gonna be great. It's really good. And it's gonna be really good on the world building side of it. However, it's not a horror movie. It's a horror movie in like concept, kind of. But as we talked about in the spoiler cast, this movie is neither shot, directed, or acted in a way that is horrific. There was no intention for this to be a horror movie other than like oh my god, this is how the world could end up. And so therefore, no, it isn't, and no, it's not. No, it's not. Not essential to horror.
Bold.
So I'll go next. So I'll say, first of all, I want to say that this director, Bong Joon-ho, has a couple of movies that are discussed frequently in the horror community, right? There's a lot of movies that are just adjacent enough. The movies that share a vibe, movies that, though they may not be horror, this movie, for example, is like, if I had to put a genre on it, I'd probably say sci-fi thriller. But are close enough that it's a movie that horror fans do watch, right? This movie is one of those movies. Parasite is one of those movies, right? I mean, when Parasite came out, there were discussions about it all over the place on horror Reddit and Twitter. And same with Snowpiercer, right? People do talk about this movie. They make recommendations to this movie on horror subs. And so, though it isn't a horror movie, I think it is adjacent enough to have been eligible for the show. I just want to say that. And maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but I've always had the broadest description of what fits the show, so I that's fine.
I don't think you're the only one who feels that way. I think I'm the only one who feels that way, as far as what it's worth.
You're the only one that feels that it fits the show?
No, that it doesn't.
I feel like it does fit the show. Okay, yeah. So
I'm saying that Alan will agree with you.
Yeah, that's with that said, would I say that this is an essential horror film? I would say no. I think that this director probably has one or two essential horror films, but they're not this one. And so, I liked it. It's very enjoyable. I think it deserves its spot on the show. I think that it deserves its scores. But no, not essential. But I would say worth the watch.
The 12th of May at 11:01 a.m. These few messages were sent in our No Funny Business Discord chat. Yeah, this one is not horror adjacent, with 2 rolling on the floor laughing reactions. My bad. I also don't necessarily think this is close enough for me personally for the show. No, it is not essential. However, what I will say about this is if something like The Conjuring is baby's first horror film, this is like fetus's first horror film. I don't know, some sort of like before baby step. Like this is like sperm's first horror film. Like it's you're before you even exist. If you can tolerate this, maybe try The Conjuring.
First horror film.
This is exactly. This is like the the pre-existence
your mother's
film.
first sexual thoughts horror film.
Like it's something like that, because it has those elements that are certainly terrifying in a way. Like the idea of this world is scary inherently. It is. But it doesn't have the ambiance of a horror film. So, no, it is not essential.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of ambiance, what have you guys been up to, and where can we find you? Going in the same order, let's just keep it simple. Bobby, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Oh, what have I been up to? That's crazy. You can first of all you can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie. You're not really gonna find much there, but who knows? Maybe you will. I've been playing a lot of WoW and a lot of Monster Hunter in my spare time.
Which one?
Rise and Sunbreak. I've decided I was going to do a great sword build.
Is that the mobile one?
No, that's the Switch, and then came to PC and PlayStation and Xbox. Actually, it came to everything after like a year. On Switch.
Mr. Pandaria, they're doing like a remix for Mr. Pandaria for WoW that makes you get a lot of stuff.
I remember when that game came out. I was working at GameStop.
Yeah,
dude, people were so pissed.
They were so mad about them pandas. It was hilarious.
I didn't
understand it at all. I was like, I don't fucking know, man. It's just pandas. What the fuck do you want from me?
It's a weird part of modern WoW's history, but again, it's like a really interesting bit.
Oh, that was like the only time we both worked at GameStop. I forgot about that. I was there too. Anyway.
But yeah, I've been great short build before bed first, just because I just started to reset and just do it because I was kind of, I don't know, I just got kind of the itch for it again. I love Monster Hunter. I've been playing it since like, not technically the beginning, but like the first gen. The first game I played on Monster Hunter was Freedom, and I've just been playing since then. I recently saw Sleep Token, like as in like day of recording yesterday. Great time.
So
if
jealous.
you are into like metal music type stuff like that, and you can get to see it, I would highly recommend it. It is something that needs to be experienced. Other than that,
who opened?
Empire State Bastard. They were described to me as Crazier 68, if you've ever listened to them.
Okay, yeah.
I would describe them as a more fucked 68, which I love a whole bunch, but most people might not. They're cool, but they're just like a very much like very loud, very like noise, hardcore punk kind of thing.
Seems like a strange.
Yeah, it was it pissed off a lot of like the preteens who were coming to their first concert to watch Sleep Token.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then it was just me like making the stupid like face the entire time because I was like, this is fucking sick.
I'll say I don't like either of those things. All right, the way you've described this first band turns me off, and then I am a famous Sleep Token not enjoyer. I guess I'd put them right in the middle. Yeah, but I can see myself absolutely taking a kid to see Sleep Token as a girl dad, and then going through a hardcore set first.
That'd be so
would
funny.
be very funny.
I will say that Sleep Token is a very, very enjoyable experience. I like them a lot, so that might be part of it. But I would say even like I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be kind of lame because I saw a lot of like TikToks surrounding it, and a lot of the stage presence out of context feels weird. But
So
in
was
context,
because I agree, I've seen some clips and it's like I don't know if this is a good show. Like
in context, it was like amazing.
Okay.
It was
so upset that I couldn't go. I tried to go to that concert, but
did
Ticketmaster.
you buy those tickets that you're talking about a couple weeks ago?
No, I didn't buy them. It would have been about $350
I
for
know,
Maggie and I to go to the show.
Yeah,
and I genuinely thought about buying them. I really did.
We had a really good spot where I was hanging out in general admission. We got a great spot.
Those were GA tickets, buddy.
Salt Shed, right?
Salt Shed.
I've never been there. Is that a cool venue?
It was a very sick venue. I'm considering going there next week again, Salt Shed in Chicago, to go see Knocked Loose and Loathe.
That'd be a fun show.
Yeah.
I'd go see Knocked Loose.
It's a very
I listened to that new album. Ooh, baby. It's a fun album.
Yeah, dude. Slaughterhouse 2, holy shit. Chris Motionless has never sounded this cool since before Creatures. Like, oh my god.
They have some very good features on that album.
Yeah, dude. And Poppy too, dude. That's like, it's so good. Anyway,
yeah, she's getting around.
So all of that, right? And that's probably the most important. But actually, the most important thing is I became an uncle this week. So that was really sick. I would like to talk to Charlie specifically. Charlie, if in years future, if I am not spoiling you, please go back to this podcast and show it to me, and I will get you the most expensive thing that you want. Yeah,
it's a bold proclamation.
It's a bold proclamation. As long as I can afford it, I will get it to you. I love you very much. I've loved you since the day you were born. Twitch.tv/TheRedWing.
Nice. Well, there you go. Well, you can find me at Bolters and Bourbon on Twitter, or at Corbangarang. My Bolters and Bourbon account, that's the main one, and that is where I talk about Warhammer and wargaming as a whole. What have I been up to lately? That, basically, wargaming. I mean, besides the podcast, work, and general, like, dad duties, wargaming is like the thing that I do now, so that's been very good. I'm planning a couple of new armies for this upcoming GT season, which is great for 40k, and then trying to get as deep as possible into Age of Sigmar 4th edition hype. I really love Age of Sigmar, and I'm reading every morsel of leaked information that I can.
Even if GW won't give you information to get hyped about, you're still hyped about it?
Yeah.
I'm coming whether or not Games Workshop will let me.
Yeah, that's right. I'm full gooner. That's right. And so that's been great. So just Peyton, build, and plan as always.
Peyton, build, plan, Goonin.
That's Peyton, build, and Goonin. Yeah.
I'm painting. I'm building. I'm gooning. I'm joking. Let's go, baby.
Yeah. Every day. So yeah, at Bolters and Bourbon, come find me. Let's talk about war games.
Oh Christ! You can find me at a seal punter just about anywhere. I am playing Chaos Knights in the upcoming time period. I'm we do monthly tournaments down here in Indianapolis where you play one game a week, and I'm currently 2-0, so doing pretty alright. But yeah, other than that, not doing a whole lot. Still reading Lord of the Rings. Just working my way through that slowly in the evenings.
Where are you at?
I'm still in the Shire.
Okay.
Bilbo just disappeared. Or I think Gandalf is just now coming back from his Frodo's 50 at this point.
Yeah, he's
if
gone
that tells
for
you roughly
for 12 years. Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny how much they just breeze over time in both the movie and the book. Actually, now that I
In
say
the beginning of the movie.
yeah, it's just like, hey, like 30 years or so, whatever. Who cares? Doesn't matter. But yeah, that's been it for me. I actually have the boys coming down in 2 months from now. To do the annual Ash Wastes get together for Super Saturday. So that's real exciting. I am going to be in Disney coming up here soon.
Yeah,
Very excited for that. I know, right? So it's going to be really fun. I have a question for you two guys, though. Slipknot is playing a show on August 6th down here.
Down there?
At Ruoff Music Center. So
that means they're probably
it's a random Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. Well, what day are they playing a show up here?
I have no idea. I haven't looked. I was looking at Knocked Loose tickets because Knocked Loose is
probably
opening for them.
What if I
that
Uno reverse
Probably,
you? Yeah, exactly. In which case, we totally couldn't go because that weekend we're playing in that GT.
Oh, that is the GT. In which case, then Uno reverse card. You want to come down on the 6th to come see Slipknot finally?
Oh, I've seen Slipknot several times, so there's no finally about it for me.
I've never seen them, so I may be trying to convince my wife to go see Slipknot at the very least.
They'll have at least
they're
one
in my
new track
backyard, so
by then with Eloy. So
I know. I think didn't they just release a new song?
They just told us the name of it.
I thought that
unless it came out today. Gotcha. Yeah, because it's coming. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about it for me. A seal punter, just about anywhere.
Nice. You can follow the podcast at Essential Scares. We're on Twitter /X, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. Follow the Facebook if you want the most up-to-date information. We post on there every time a new episode comes out, and usually if an episode is going to be delayed or something. Make sure you like, rate, subscribe, follow the show. You might be listening to us on Spotify. You might be listening to us on Apple Podcasts, maybe watching YouTube. Whatever of those options that you're doing, we love you for doing it. And whatever option that you're not doing, just push that plus button, right? Because everyone helps. We have been on the knife's edge of a custom YouTube URL for like 6 months, and it would be kind of cool if we could get it going. So if you don't already subscribe to the YouTube page, please do. We are going to be getting the videos back up and going more consistently. So I promise.
Yeah, let me speak on that.
It'll be worth it.
Yeah. This week's episode will be coming out with the normal episodes, and then we will be backlogging episodes per Wednesday until we are back up to full. So we'll have episodes every Saturday and Wednesday until we are back up to date, and then who knows what we'll do after that.
What's better than that? But yeah, that's it for this week. Share with your friends, share with your family. Thank you so much to everybody for watching and for listening. Next week we are gonna watch.
Oh, that's a great question that you said without a question mark.
Well,
you see,
it's an open.
We've watched a lot. You see, you assholes.
Yeah.
You two absolute fucking goons have tried to ruin me every single time. You've tried to go, ha ha ha, how can I make Bobby make a not horror movie? Because we'll do not horror movies. But you fools, you do not understand that John Hurt is in this movie. John Hurt, who is a famous man from a famous scene in one of the most famous horror movies of all time. An additional famous thing that I have not actually watched in my lifetime of being a horror movie fan. Shocking, I know. I've watched every Alien movie except for the original. So for the podcast, we'll be watching Alien.
Oh, that's going to be so refreshing.
I forgot we talked about that 2 weeks ago. And then, that was like decided.
We certainly did.
100% did.
Yeah. Awesome. Very, very cool.
I almost watched I almost picked the Bong Joon-ho movie that is the one.
I was thinking about that. I was like,
horror movie that
is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
but no, we picked the thing that is not the host, but is
which version are you gonna watch?
The theatrical is the one that is more widely accepted. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
I watched the extended or the director's cut for the show when we did Days of Horror.
Yeah,
so
I will watch the theatrical cut because it's just, again, I would rather watch the original because, again, I have not seen Alien. It is a classic horror shame of mine to have never seen this movie.
Well, there you go. I'll also be watching the director's cut, but only because I just saw the theatrical in theaters 2 weeks ago. So I'll have both.
Who knows?
under-
Maybe I'll
under my
watch
belt.
both. We'll see what happens.
You deserve it. You deserve to watch both.
Hey, thanks, man.
But there you have it. So 2 weeks from now, we are watching Alien with a connection drawn by Bobby via John Hurt. So take your time and go and watch that. I believe it is streaming on Max if you have HBO Max. Otherwise, grab it whatever your normal way is. Thank you again to everybody for watching and for listening. Thank you to Alan and Bobby for being on the show with me this week. I have been your host, Corbin, and this has been Essential Scares.
Look at that breakdown.